started. Great to see everybody. Happy New Year. Glad you all braved the little bit of cold weather. You guys come out in the cold, rain, snow or shine. Yeah, we need the rain and the snow, but let's see if we can get some eventually. I'm going to try to, I cut my list of reporting down. Like, I do try to listen to the feedback of this group, and this group is so helpful to us as managers, the feedback you give us. And sometimes it's not always stuff we want to hear, but it's stuff we need to hear. And so we appreciate, and we want you to always feel comfortable to speak up and give us your heartfelt, true opinions. And so one of the things I've kind of heard in the last couple of months is that this forum might be a little less reporting and a little more open discussion to give you an opportunity to talk about things that you're interested in or things that you would like to see us address. So I cut my list way down this time. What I wanted to do too, because it's the new year, and in the new year many of us think about resolutions and how can we improve as personally and professionally and as our organization. So I wanted to open up discussion at the end after I and Valerie report for you to give me at least, and I'm sure Valerie will appreciate, some little feedback on what should be our priorities this coming year. We're going to set some goals, some resolutions. What do you see would be a good area to do that? And I selected one, and then I'd like some feedback on that, and then any others you think that the city and the county possibly should focus on. I noticed in the December minutes that there was a question regarding the greenhouse. And so the greenhouse, I just always want to let the public know, the greenhouse is privately owned. It went through a bankruptcy. In the bankruptcy, the city was awarded $100,000 in back water bills. There were a lot of debt that other agencies, private businesses, maybe the county didn't recoup any of their loss. And so eventually it went to the state because of losses in taxes, the taxes that were owed to the county. So the state tax and rev came in, and then what they do is they try to give typically 3 years for a business to pay their taxes. If they don't, they typically put them up for auction at the property, and then others can come in and bid on those properties and buy them. The greenhouse business went through a bankruptcy. They reorganized and changed their name, but it was still owned and operated by the same family. Part of the bankruptcy stipulation was that one of the owners, John Stockwell, would not be involved, but yet it allowed his wife to be involved. And I don't know how that all works. She has a different last name, so I don't know, if it was real clear to the bankruptcy courts that they were a married couple. And so anyway, John Stockwell has been involved from the get-go in the reorganization. So I just got a notice a couple of weeks ago from the courts. A gentleman, and Terry Fletcher may know the name, Capusi, is that the name? Was a business partner, but he's filed for an injunction because this John Stockwell's been involved. So there's some turmoil in the bankruptcy court now because somebody's filed a claim saying, hey, the stipulation was this individual won't be involved, he's involved in the new company. And I got another notice saying the company was going through reorganization again. I haven't had the time to get online. You can get online and look under bankruptcy records and see what's going on. So that's my knowledge of what's going on, and I think I understand they paid their first tax payment to the county, but they didn't pay their second. So it may be back in the ball court of the state tax and rev now again.
That's great. I'll just dovetail what Laura said, perfectly accurate with all the information that she just gave. And additional to that is previous administration, that's as tactful as I'm going to get, took a $2 million tax lien and reduced it down to $440,000. New math. They did make their first payment of $220,000 beginning of October of 2016. Their second payment, which was the remaining portion, was due the beginning of October of 2017. They defaulted. So as soon as I realized that, as I'm going down through the stack, contacted our attorneys. The county received the same two notification letters that the city received regarding the challenge to Mr. Stockwell, again, provided by Mr. Capuzzi, and that they were in default. Well, when they become in default with an agreement with Tax and Rev, yeah, it doesn't go with. So it goes back to the original claim. So we are filing on the original $2 million that they owe, and we are pushing that it goes up for auction. So all parties that are involved, whether there's a remaining balance with the city, our $2 million, everything else, this gets moved along because pretty much they've defaulted on every part of their agreement for bankruptcy. So we'll keep you posted. Like I said, it's common information. You can get online to look at it under bankruptcy court. So we'll keep you posted as it comes in. I doubt if it'll be very quickly, but we're pushing through to say you didn't honor it, and we're moving forward. Back to Laura.
So the big question is whether or not, we have had a couple of industries coming in, looking at it, looking at the possibility of refurbishing it. Is it still usable? That's kind of questionable. I know my first year as city manager, a group came in that wanted to see it, and as they walked through, they are operating other greenhouses somewhere else, I don't remember, but they felt like there was still a lot of assets that are usable in there or that could be sold for money. So you know, we've had a few people look at it. As a community, I think we all would like to see something happen there. It's a big eyesore the way it looks now, and so we want you to know Economic Development Foundation is working to see if there are some options to bring that to life or do something different with it.
Wasn't it the one where they wanted to grow marijuana but they couldn't, so they went out to the reservation and built a brand new greenhouse and they grow it out there?
Right, and I think they could do the marijuana here under someone else's license. They weren't awarded a license, but they were upset with the county because they didn't feel like the county was going to give them any tax breaks. And so they decided they were going to work with Acoma. And I've not heard any more on how that's going. So, you know, we haven't heard any progress on that today. At the last I had heard, they were trying to get what's called EB5 certificates, and the investors they have are foreign investors, and I guess if you invest $1 million in a business in the United States, you get a green card, something to that effect, and there's a whole system. So they had quite a few, maybe 100 investors, foreign investors that were willing to give $1 million, but they couldn't get through that EB5 process or something.
I was going to say, just so everyone knows, well, this is an interesting thing, the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, is actually getting ready to announce a rescinding of the rule that allows states to have medical marijuana and recreational marijuana programs. So they'll be under the, fall under the federal law that says that marijuana is still a Schedule I narcotic. So that actually might put a pin in some of this stuff here in the state as well.
Okay, interesting. Yes?
You mentioned it's an eyesore, and I thought, well, it is when I drive up the road, but otherwise I don't see it.
Right.
So at least it's way over here, kind of out of sight.
Right, but it's on the road to our golf course, which is
Right.
our showpiece, or something we're very proud of, and as you drive
Everybody
by.
is yeah. Now, if I was to pick up golfing, oh yeah.
Yeah, right. So I think we've gotten kind of used to it and don't even notice it compared to other people too. I have to try to remember that because we're so used to what's here, we don't always notice. Other thing, last time I think Chris brought up, we are exploring becoming a film-friendly community. And so we're looking for low-hanging fruit, things that we can get a good bang for the buck. And so, a lot of times we try to bring in big industry, and that's really tough to attract Facebook, or some big Cabela's, I think we were wanting to come into grants. Those are really a lot of times out of our range, but becoming a film-friendly community, there's a lot of things we can do, and our staff are working with a group out of Santa Fe to look at that, because there are lots of groups going through New Mexico looking for places to film. And so how film industry might help us is it would bring crews in to do filming, and so those crews stay in hotels, and then they have to build sets and various things, so they hire locals to help them with that. They have to eat, and so they hire catering companies to feed them. They have their clothes laundried, stuff like that. So those are some things that they're not long term, but it's stuff that might give our economy a boost here and there, that we probably don't have to do a whole lot of extra stuff. And then sometimes these groups come in and they're like, well, we need this over here. We want this building to look a little different, so we're going to invest money into fixing this building up or creating this scene, and it helps your community as well. So, you know, all film industry aspects are not positive, and we realize that. You know, it's almost in some respects, and I don't want to be rude, but like inviting the carnival to town in some respects, but there's a lot of positive to it too that I think our community could benefit from, and stuff that we already have some beautiful places to film at and unique buildings that we wouldn't have to do a lot to get a boost to our economy. So we're working on that. The Legacy Trail, I know Eric's not here this morning, but he always asks me how it's going. The Legacy Trail that starts at the Riverwalk and will go a half a mile, the first phase, we're working with the DOT. They're having us do still the right-of-way acquisitions and acquisitions of properties, and so we've had to hire a company that they approved to come in and meet with each property owner, and unfortunately we have to offer the property owners funding for their property. We're hoping that most all will donate the property. Most all of that is along the riverbank. It's not high prime property as far as couldn't build a house there, couldn't build a business there. Trail is a good aspect, and it'll clean up the area. So we're hoping that they're going to donate it to the city for that project. But that's the aspect that we're in, and this has been a really long haul, and we're following the Department of Transportation's process, which is not easy. In November, the city and Team 66, which is the Chamber, Main Street Economic Development, several organizations, we attended a Top Hat Awards, which our group, we actually nominated several events, tourist attractions and things to be looked at. And I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that the Arch, the 66 Arch, got the top state award. And so that, you know, it's really the significance of that is that how sometimes we try to think of these grandiose things, and that Arch was really something relatively simple, and it cost very little. I think the total cost was $5,000. Mike Lewis, I want to make sure he gets the full credit for that. Mike Lewis came up with the idea, he designed it, he did most of the work on it, and he partnered with the college and several community businesses to get that put up and built. But it's, you know, every time I see somebody parked there under it, I feel so good, because it's something so simple that has brought some fame to the city of Grants and to our area. And so I think we should always remember, it doesn't take, you know, we don't have to build a big water park or something to get people to come. It can be relatively simple. Yes?
The refuge is right across the street from the arch, and all hours of the day and night people swing.
Right. One of our staff, I can't remember, I think it might have been Thanksgiving, her family was here and they all went down there. It was like 11 o'clock at night or something. She said there was a line at that hour of people going through to take pictures. So, and then when I see them posted online and stuff, it just makes me feel good that It's something relatively simple, but the word is out, and so, you know, other people see someone's picture and go, hey, I want to go see that. Let's take a trip over there. So it has brought some attention here, and that was the whole purpose.
Well, you know, the National Guard, I was down there one day, and there's all these trucks parked, and they're all taking turns getting their picture under the arch.
Yes. Yeah.
All the army trucks were all in one big line, and I guess all the soldiers wanted their picture.
Right.
I said, what are all these guys lined up for? And then it was the arch. Yeah.
Right. We see that all the time, so it's great. So Team 66 is doing well. We're still working on a couple of things. We're trying to get a new welcome sign on the east end of town in that little triangle as you come over the bridge into Grants. The big holdup on that is the DOT wants it to be a breakaway sign. So, but they've not been real good to tell us exactly what the breakaway will consist of. Our staff have found someone in Albuquerque that specializes in breakaway signs and understands all the criteria. So they're working with them now, and we're trying to use the local sign company also to do parts of it. So that should be coming soon. We have gotten approval to paint those 66 insignias on the streets, and we were going to hire a company to do that, but I think they're templates that you just paint inside of, so I think the street department's actually going to do it. So there'll be several places, and that'll add a little something, just help us and our tourists remember this is Route 66. Those will be going out real soon. We've talked about lowering the speed limit on Santa Fe Avenue to improve pedestrian traffic and allow people to shop and create that synergy downtown where people will start coming down to shop and maybe more businesses will open. So we decided to start with a small aspect, and so our engineer is working with the DOT to create 2 crosswalks. One will be at close to City Hall there by Fire and Ice Park to cross by Rockies, because now we have Rockies and we have the coffee shop, so there are people on the other side that want to cross over, so we're going to look at the process to create a crosswalk. Creating a crosswalk will also help slow down traffic, and then we're looking at another crosswalk, I believe down at Iron, which is where the Chamber Mining Museum is. And so that's our first steps in trying to work with the DOT to get the speed limit down.
Just a quick question.
Yes.
I think those are both really good locations, but do you feel like they might be a little bit too close together?
Maybe, and that's something as they work on planning it out, then because we could go down further to 5th Street, which is the one close to Mike Lewis's location.
Well, we have the crossing underneath the bridge right
We have
there
the
between
lines
the
right there.
Riverwalk and the Artesian Well. So maybe it would be beneficial to go closer to like Bank of New Mexico maybe.
Okay, yeah, that's true, that's
Another
true.
thing they might do is for a police officer once in a while. This morning coming in, I was going 35 and the guy goes by me about 50 right for Rockies.
Yes,
You know,
yeah,
so some of these people in the morning, they're just flying through there.
you're right, you're right.
You know, if
I
you
don't
put
know.
the crosswalk further back towards like west, it might slow traffic down a little bit sooner.
Coming that way.
Waiting until you get to those 2 little streets and then speeding back up.
Yeah, so a lot of things to consider as we see how it's all going to flow. And I know the DOT, it'll probably be quite a long process, the same kind of thing, trying to strategically plan where are the best locations for those. And that will create, they're always looking liability-wise, you know, what's not going to create an accident. And so that's important too. Let's see. I just wanted to remind everybody, city council elections are coming up. So the filing date is January 9th. Anybody who wants to run. We have 2 council positions open, and I brought a little map. The blue is District 4, the white is District 2, 3 is green, and 1 is yellow. District 2 and 4 have seats that are going to be open. That's Mike Lewis's District 4 and Rick Lucero is District 2. So I always want to encourage our citizens to think about running for office. The mayor's position is open as well, so we have 3, and our judge, our municipal judge, is open. So please think about serving your community. It's a very thankless job, but very appreciated. And you know, I don't want to tell any lies here, but yeah, ask Manny. But you know, we need good people to step up and become involved and be a council or a commissioner.
So, is Mike Lewis and Rick Lucero, are they both running, or you don't know?
Mike Lewis, I understand, is not. Rick Lucero has indicated he is interested in running again. And then the mayor is interested in running again. We have two companies that are working really hard to expand or create better internet service for the community. One is Continental Divide, is working on developing a big broadband program for our community, and Sacred Wind is working very hard to expand theirs. So just kind of wanted to let the community know that's been a big concern, is we don't have good internet service. It's not very fast, and so we have some companies. The city's very interested in that, because if we do want to attract business, they need good internet service, and that's one of the first things they ask. Well, what's your broadband capability? And if we don't have that, then they look for other places. Coffee shop at the library is up for bid still, so the deadline, I believe, is January 24th. We're hoping someone will come forward, someone or more than, you know, a couple of different entrepreneurs that are interested in managing that coffee shop. I think it's going to be a really good business opportunity for someone, and it's going to be good for our library and for our youth. I hope many of you have been in the new library. We're very proud of it. It turned out very well, and we're very happy, and we're working with our staff to look at how we can expand hours and expand programs, and how we can better serve the community through that facility.
Two people that have talked to me about that coffee shop is it management, or will they be the proprietor? Not, I know we know they're not going to own it, but is it going to be their shop, or are they going to be managing for the city?
It's going to be their shop.
Okay, their shop. The next thing is signage. Is the city going to provide signage for them outside?
That's going to be negotiated. We had planned to provide signage, and we had it in our contract with the group that built the facility. So that's, we can provide the signage.
Or at least a location for them to do their
Yes,
own sign.
and that's the nice thing about the sign that we have there, the big tall one. It's got places where we can add, because the other half of the building we still are working on to try to figure out what's going to go in there. So we're going to need signage for those as well. If it's workforce development or training center, all of those kind of things will need to be listed. And we've got a lot of room on that big, on those big poles.
And is all that amended in the new bid package? Because when we picked it up and looked at it, none of that was listed, and they want all that up front before they even consider it.
Well, and all of that will be in a contract, but if there's people interested, you know, what we've found from the first bid went out, and then afterwards I kind of heard some people didn't like this or didn't like that, so we did go in and put this is negotiable, because there's certain things that we want, and there'll be a few things we probably won't budge on, but most of it, in reality, if we want to get somebody in there, we've got to work with whoever's interested to meet their needs and their desires as well. So if you know somebody interested, just have them contact me and, you know, speak with me directly, and let's talk about, is that something we'll negotiate with them. And I put several blurbs in there now that the things were negotiable. Yeah. So, yes.
I noticed there's no, it's a beautiful brand new facility, but I'm still in a wheelchair most of the time, and there's no automatic doors.
So, yeah, so
I was
that's
wondering,
something we'll have to work on.
Brand new building, but no, you know, where you hit the button and the door
Right.
opens.
So that's
It's a little
something we can,
difficult for people in
for
a
people.
wheelchair.
Okay, that's good to know.
I didn't know if it was just an oversight or just didn't have the money to put it in when you.
You know,
Everything else is fine.
yeah, I'm sure it's just something we didn't add in.
No one
That
thinks
probably,
about it unless they're in it.
that's true. You're right. You're right. So something we'll have to work on then. Let's see, a few other things. We are having issues with the smell now at the wastewater treatment plant here at the golf course, and I know Mount Taylor Addition's been complaining. Some homes on this side have complained. We're working with CH2M to try to address that. As we were building the new plant and we closed down one of the lagoons and other things are being shifted to other lagoons, we kind of stirred the pot. And to say in so many words. And so now we need to get the pot to settle back down. and so we're, some of the people were like, well, the new plant will be online in 6 months. And I'm like, no, we need to address this now. So I've asked them, let's figure out what do we need to put out there to fix that smell. So we are working on it. Our primary focus in the next couple of years, we got the library done, the bridge is going to be done. Our primary focus will be roads, finishing first and second, and then some of our other secondary roads, but the primary roads for sure, and the secondary roads. We are top on the list to get funding from DOT for first and second. And so we're really pushing for other funding for that, and then we'll use some of ours for our other local roads. And then the other priority are lift stations, which we have several around town that pump the sewage to the treatment plant, and many of those are aged and not functioning appropriately. And a couple of times each year we're in emergency mode because something broke down. So we're trying to work on refurbishing those.
Yeah, with regard to the roads, one of the things I've been curious about, the state, or DOT, went ahead and completely redid, I'll call it Route 66 in Milan, all the way from the BNSF bridge to the far western side of Milan. It's completely redone. And this quarter-mile section of Roosevelt's just the worst road in the city.
I agree.
Yeah.
So one thing to our benefit is there's a new DOT District 6 commissioner. His name is Billy Moore. And Billy is friends with the city. So it's good, he's told us, and the county as well. So he's lives in Thoreau, but he's the director of the Solid Waste Authority. And he's going to look after our communities, and I'm sure the whole district, but he's under the, he knows about these issues. But yeah, I was like, how did Milan get that? How did that? And I'm sure that was something, it's been in the works for probably 20 years, but the way the DOT works, it's had to have been 20 years ago, because we're on the 4th year for the Legacy Trail. So, who knows who influenced that? But yeah, we went our turn. Yeah, even Santa Fe Avenue is really getting in bad shape, definitely. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Miss Taylor.
Good morning, Happy New Year. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Yeah, well, we're starting out with a bang. Right.
Appropriate word, huh?
It's January 4th, come on now.
Yeah, I know. Time takes no prisoners. So we have a lot going on. The Citizen and the Independent have been very active in passing out information of what's going on with the county. It was concerning back in December. After I met with all of you, it got a little worse. So right now, my job is to ensure that when we are identifying additional problems, that we are getting resolved, and that they're resolved in a clear-cut, methodical, legal process. So what does that mean? Well, we looked into some deeper accounting, and Michael Steinecker will be back on Monday, so happy to have him. Every day I ask him if he wants to be my financial director. I'm working him, just working him. But he's still continuing to help us. He'll be with us through the end of February, which is really good. He's going to be giving some classes to my department heads on how to actually do a budget that is sound. Budgeting is not something that comes naturally to people. You do your home budgets, but when you're doing your business and things like that, you have to work within certain parameters. And when it goes to me and I say, okay, well, it looks like we're going to have X amount of dollars, and then it goes to the commission says, well, no, we're looking to do a 2% reduction all across the board. So how do department heads, as you've seen in the past, the commission just says, we're going to slash this, we're going to slash that, and it's not always either the right program to slash or the right line item to slash. So my goal is to have stronger budgets to say, why do you need these things? So Michael will be giving basically a tutorial on how to do budgets. I do believe that Chief Vigil from the City of Grants and Chief Salazar from Milan will be attending those as well. So the budgets are more in depth and more detail. So what does that mean to the community? Well, there's more things for you to read. Where's the money being spent? When you see, well, we need $10,000 for training for the sheriff's office. Well, that's a lot of money. And they said, well, we've got to cut, $3,000 out of that. And they slice it. Well, did they really need that $10,000? Well, maybe they needed to do some federal training. Maybe they had state requirements in there. Maybe they have DUI. But if we don't know where those are lined out, it makes it kind of vague. I think that is a big problem of why we have not been managing our money for the county very well for the last 15 years, is because it was too gray. So the department heads are going to have to, we're going to start in February. What a novel idea. It's not due till July. Let's work on it for 5 months and have it ready so the day it's due, it goes in. Not the last day, but the first day. So commissioners are not above this. They get their training in February. So January we'll have department head training. Commissioners will have training in February to just not go in and slash and burn. How do you read a budget? Well, some people are a little challenged with that. So if you're an elected official, you need to learn those things. But there's not a class on how to be a commissioner. Well, there's a little one. But I mean, really, people do it. I want to serve my community. So Laura had mentioned that they have a few spots open in the city, and we encourage citizens to participate. But sometimes you just don't know what you're getting into until you're sitting in the seat and you're like, oh boy, this is fun.
I know that Councilman Lewis and Councilman Vasquez and a few trustees have gone through the Molly training.
There is training, and there's
So
training for
that's
county
kind of-
commissioners as well. They have the county association. So.
I suggest that maybe,
A refresher?
Or mandatory.
Well, I do believe when they first get sworn in that they do take the mandatory classes, but I mean, you're excited, you just got the promotion, you've just been on the campaign trail, you're trying to get organized, and you sit in this class and it goes right over your head. So I'm thinking that maybe some staggered training would be a good thing, let things kind of settle down, learn what they need to do, work with their constituents, work with the other electeds. And that's one of the things that I'm talking to with the NMAC. Not that I'm shy, I just come in and say, hey, I see a little improvement here. Yes, sir.
When you just mentioned goes over their head, you mean it's what they present in the class is too much?
I don't think that it's too much, but when people start a new job, no matter what it is, there's an excitement because they want to do well. There's preconceived notions of what needs to be done, and they don't have the going on in the back. We see in the public what's going on, but if you sit in your commissioner's chairs, if you want to shadow Manny one day, you'll probably say, "Ooh, I'm so glad he's doing this and not me." So it becomes more involved and more in depth, and you wouldn't know that your first day sitting in the chair. So there takes a little bit of time to get acclimated and everything. Just like with Laura and myself, you think you have a pretty good strong picture, and then the day starts moving, and you see how much more is involved with that. So I think if they stagger the training a little bit better, and it has a little bit of time to not get everything in 2 days and say, okay, we're going to do a little budgeting, we're going to do a little bit of ethics, we're going to do a little bit of, what your role is and what your role isn't. And then they kind of absorb it, practice it a little bit, and go back and have a network with other newly elected. Because working in government is much different than private industry. It moves much slower. There's a lot more regulation. So if you're not used to that, there is a protocol that is followed. You're supposed to be followed.
So what you're saying is you need a class on how to deal with the DOT?
Yes, and Laura probably can write a few chapters in there, on there, because it's not one of those, you come in, you have a meeting, you set it down, and it's completed. I don't know why government works that way. Yes,
You know,
ma'am?
Valerie, we're all accountants. We know what we have in our checking account. But because we have leftover checks, doesn't mean you have leftover money.
Yes.
We are all faced to that everyday life. Okay, and when you're going to the city or the county, everything, I found out, everything moves really slow. Okay, but it also gives you a chance to realize, for you to go back and look at your books. If you're a business owner, and people have been business owners, if you look at their accounting, and we have an accounting person, you listen to your accounting person. That's why you ladies are there, so we can listen to you, what you're facing. And not just because we have X amount of money in our bank account, the city's account, or the county, doesn't mean, oh, well, let's get some new cars. It doesn't work that way.
That's right. So it's an education process. You know, the manager's position basically is the mediator. You know, they have the elected officials who are voting, they're listening to the citizens. You have the inner workings of the agency where they're running the departments, they're providing the customer service, they're working with the vendors, and all of it filters through the manager to be lined out for presentation. One of the things that I've noticed in can you believe I've been here 5 months already? Feels like 5 years. No. But one of the first things that I asked is that the citizens become involved, because I can't see everything, Laura can't see anything. So I encourage that the citizens really step up, and if you see something, give us a call. I am getting more and more calls every day. Some of them are a little hot, but I don't mind that. Some of them have questions. I observed this, and I'm so thrilled when somebody, and they're like, well, I'm mad. And I'm like, oh, I'm okay with that. I'm just glad that you called, because one, it tells me you're paying attention to your community and that you have a concern and you want it addressed by somebody. We'll take those calls all day, because that is what's going to improve the safety, the economic development here is a community that cares. So we do have the inbox. If you go on the website and says, I want to, you can click down. You can send me an email. We check it every day, unless it's holiday or the weekend, and we try to get those responses out to there. So if you think of something at 2 o'clock in the morning, email it, and it'll, I'm sure a lot of people are wondering about what's going on at 2 o'clock. I am. So with that, we're just trying to build the communication out there. Laura and I can't do it by ourselves. The commissioners can't do it. But if the commissioners, the managers, and the citizens do it, we'll pull through this. A couple of things on the agenda. I am meeting with Tax and Revenue tomorrow in Santa Fe, and I will be meeting with DFA on the 9th and the 10th. So I will find out what the direction the state wants us to be moving in, and I will be sharing that information on there. So, yes, ma'am.
We were going back to the different jobs and stuff that are opening, the mayor's job and all that. You know, it would help if there was just a job description of the job.
They're not really jobs per se. I mean, they're elected officials in their elected positions, but our charter has our mayor's job description.
I know,
and our council.
It's like, there's nothing hardly there.
So you realize it's pretty much a voluntary job. I mean, the commissioners get paid much more than our council, but our mayor makes $15,000 and our council members make $12,000. So it's not like a highly paid job. It's really volunteer, and this is a little bit of compensation for your, gas mileage basically to get to meetings and traveling all over to do stuff. It's just a little bit of compensation. So it's, I just want to make sure people know it's not really a job.
Yeah, all I could see is that he presides over meetings and casts a vote to break a tie. And if there's a disaster, then he's chief over what's being taken care of, and that's all I can see.
And that's right, because,
I mean, is that it? I mean,
the council are policy setters and budget, to oversight of the budget, but they hire a city manager and a county manager, and my job is to hire the staff. The mayor and the council are not involved in personnel issues, so it's your managers are the workhorses
Yeah.
for the organization. The mayor is the figurehead, and he's supposed to organize the council to guide us in our vision and where we want to go, and to be the public, get that public input for what do citizens want for us to be doing. Yes?
One of the things, going back to what Valerie mentioned earlier as far as commissioners and so forth, and you guys work for the commission and the county, but the elected officials, the councilmen and the commissioners answer to us.
Right.
Now, when I have no problem walking in Valerie's office and discussing things that we do, or your office, but most people won't do that. But they're more comfortable talking to their commissioners and or councilmen. I'm sure Manny hears some pretty outrageous suggestions, and I'm pretty sure he hears some very good ones.
Right.
But, like I said, things are going to change. I mean, we have city election coming up, and then we have elections. I guarantee you the faces on the commission are going to change. There's a good number of people who are working to ensure that happens. As a result, and it's really great that Valerie is doing this, but you work for the commission, yes?
No.
Or do they work for you?
No.
Who works for who?
I answer to them and I give them information.
Mhm.
I work for the citizens. Make no mistake about that.
Are-
But
Are you an
am
employee of the county?
I'm appointed by the commission, so
So-
it's kind of like a job posting time thing, but it's, they should look around, pick the best candidate and move in. Same thing with the manager. So we are a titled position employee.
So the term would be you work at the leisure of the commission.
Absolutely.
Okay. So tomorrow when you go to this meeting, you're gonna go with Department of Finance, you're gonna gather the information, you're gonna come back, and you're gonna report to the commission, and they're gonna make the decisions, or are you gonna make the decision?
My job and any manager's job is a facilitator, so I gather the information from the staff, I gather information from the state, basically all the players, and I present. The governing bodies is either the city council or the commissioners. I can strongly suggest, Laura can strongly suggest, but we are not a voting entity in there. So it is the elected officials that are making the decision on there. And so that's where there tends to be a little bit of discrepancy. And the bottom part is if the council members or the commissioners don't show and they don't come to the meetings and listen to everything that's being presented, we have full plates, and I can't go out there and be babysitting if you decide not to show up. So then is there a question of is voting records being accurately represented because they don't have the full information? Manny.
Your job is Griffin and Laura's. They're under the county commissioner and Laura's under the city council. You were hired to guide us. Okay? We commissioners or city councilmen listen to the public if we're out there, and they always want to call you.
Yeah.
Okay, so at that point, when you go to these meetings, just to make it clear, you are learning what's happening in our state and our federal government, where we commissioners and city council, while we're waiting for you to come out and report to us.
Correct.
And at that point, you and Laura have to make a decision which way you think it would benefit our city or our county. We, commissioner, city councilmen, listen to your recommendation, and we vote what's best for our community.
Correct.
Am I right?
Yes. Yes. Go ahead.
I have a question of point of clarity. Did you mention a little bit ago that there are people involved on making sure that there are changes to
Well, or the
the...
citizenry, yes.
Is that who
and-
you meant? I was
Well,
wondering if you elaborate.
there's always, there's the left, there's the right, there's the
Okay.
moderates,
All
there's
So
there's
that's
the
what you meant.
extremists. Within our own parties, well, whether you be
Tony
Republican or
meant
Democrat,
Mafia.
No.
people within our own groups, we are, some of us are not
Okay.
happy with what we're seeing, and we're working to institute change. But by the same token, people on the opposite side are working to get their candidates to run against our candidates, but no matter what happens, I can almost guarantee there's gonna be new faces on the county commission.
And is the election in March? I forget.
On
The city election is in March, the
Oh, okay.
second, is it second Tuesday in March, March 9th or so, something like that. And the candidates have to file by January 9th, I do
Yes.
know that, yes.
Well, you know, I'll share something with you. For 8 years, I had this commissioner who would do nothing for our roads. So our people, we went to the meeting, in front of the manager, no, another manager, okay?
Mhm.
He ended up graveling our road because our commissioner for 8 years would not do it. We asked him for 8 years, and he kept, oh, down the road, I'll get you down there, whatever. So we went to the meeting, and within a week, the county manager had the road gravelled.
Mhm.
So sometimes you might have a representative who doesn't do anything for you. You know, and we had one that wouldn't do anything for us, on the county commissioner for 8 years. And so we had to go to the meeting and get something done, you know, and had none.
Mhm.
So sometimes you have to do that. If you want something done, sometimes you have commissioners that are good, and you have other ones that just ignore you. You know?
Right.
So,
And both I've been to the city council meetings in the county before I became the manager and stuff. Public comment is available. If you have a question or concern, please come and voice it. You get your 3 minutes. It may not seem like a lot of time, but
Right.
you can bring a lot to the table when you do that. And I always encourage that the citizens come in and do that. Like I said, it's a big county, but there's a lot going on with the city, and sometimes it's hard for us to be everywhere
you
and
go to
everything
the
else.
meetings, and if you want something done, then they know what's going on.
Right.
Instead of just one individual, the whole people know, and you
Mhm.
get something done because
Yeah.
it's presented, you know.
So
There's
as
other things.
citizens, you have to always realize too that we get millions of requests. I mean, I get a good 50 every week, you know, we need this, we need that. I put it on my little list. And so, you know, there's only so much resources. So I try to get back with people as much as possible and tell them, you're still on our radar, we're gonna get to it eventually. And I feel good when we finally do get to it. Doris Court just got paved. That group had been complaining for years. And we got that. 4th Street needed widening. That's something they had brought before the manager, the council. So it's just a matter too of priorities. But I think that helps remind me as you bring me your concerns that we have to kind of let you know, okay, it goes on the list. You're number 2070. It's on our radar now. It may take us till 2012, 20 whatever to get to it. But there's a lot that needs done. But I think that helps me remember. We just kind of got to let you guys know that we're not ignoring you. There's other things. Our wastewater treatment plant just broke down. That's got to be addressed first. So.
And we have a leak on what is it, Nimitz? Big, people are out of water, fire department's out of water. I get 3
Yeah.
calls. I have a trickle coming out of my ground. Can you come and fix it?
Yeah.
3 or 4 times, you know,
Yeah.
and
Well-
finally you tell them, we have an emergency.
Right.
It'll be fixed.
Yeah. Well, my dad, I always have to remember, before I was the city manager, my dad was complaining about the gophers at Wells Park. At Wells Park. He'd take the dogs there. There's gopher holes. And I complained to Mr. Horacek. I said, you know, Dad, I bet he has a lot more serious things he's dealing with than the gopher holes. So I'm trying to give him a perspective. You know, he's got a lawsuit on this or that. I'm like, the gopher holes aren't way up there, you know. So, yeah.
In another situation, obviously, that has to do with the roads, like Roosevelt, it's a state road. And so DOT is really, I get the sense DOT is really the entity that has to take care of it,
Right.
not the city.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it all comes down to money and resources. And you know, I give the DOT a hard time. Jose's wife works for them, and Jose's wife is wonderful. She looks out for the city. She keeps us on track. So I have to try to, you know, to their defense, you know, they get all kinds of lawsuits, so they have to put things in place, and they've got it down to a pat, I'll tell you, to put the safeguards in there. And so, you know, I understand the rationale. Sometimes, though, in reality, my perspective is, okay, let's forget all that and let's get something done. You know, let's quit making it so difficult. And
I mean, they do good jobs. I mean, they went and did a nice job on South 53.
yes, yes,
all
yeah,
the way up to my road.
right.
You know? And so they went out, I'm near, well, I'm not Brady, but they went all the way out there from, they did a beautiful job on the road, you know, fixed up all those things, used to be
Right.
potholes, so the DOT is working, you know.
And you know, in reality, they're just a lot more sophisticated than we are, and so you know, they've got this process down, and it's very annoying, but in reality, it protects everybody. And so I think same with schools. You know, we've got to the point in schools we're trying to be so accountable that we're teaching kids that school's not fun anymore for teachers or for students, because we're trying to be so accountable of what we're doing. And sometimes when you go to the other extreme to be so accountable, you lose out on the real education aspects that make it pleasurable.
Ask, is it possible that maybe some of, not necessarily the slowdown, but the process with the DOT has to do with funding? I mean, I know the state is pretty broke as well, so could that...
I'm sure, yes. There's only so much money they have to, and every community's dealing with failing roads. And so it's a big aspect, and so we just have to work as a state and as communities on how can we use our resources wisely, get the best bang for our buck.
So I have another question. Is it possible for like our county to win the lottery? Like could our county?
If you have the numbers, I'll play them, and I will share.
I'm just saying, if someone wins, can we put that money in the county accounts and, you know...
Wouldn't that, yeah.
I'm just saying.
Powerball's up to $500 million.
Yeah, I'm saying...
I would share, honest, I would.
I would share too.
I would telecommute, I will tell you that too, so.
What's gonna happen there?
Well, you saw that thing on TV, what was it, 2 ladies bought something and won, and then the other one kind of sneakily went to the side to claim the winnings or something. I saw that on the news, so.
I'll take Laura with me if I win, just so to be honest.
I don't know how
We
that
got
would work.
public accountability right here.
That's
public
right,
record.
that's right, there you go.
So Valerie, do you, oh, go ahead.
Different direction. I was going to ask you if there was anything for grants pending at the session. Is there anything we should help support you with, or anything you need?
You know, we all went before the legislators a couple of weeks ago, the different municipalities and county, to give them a wish list of 3 of our top priorities, and they're going to try to advocate for those. I'm not real hopeful. I'm being realistic that we haven't had capital outlay money awards for a couple of years now, so if we do get some, I anticipate that it might be 100,000 or a little bit here and there. And same thing with our poor legislators. You know, if you only have 300,000 and you're serving 6 communities, is it better to divvy it up, or is it better to get something bigger accomplished with one? And so we have to, you know, they take it pretty hard hits when they're trying to get money for groups, and you can't help everybody.
Can you share what was on the wish list?
Ours was the lift stations. Let's see, we had 3. The lift stations to help rehab those, and I'm trying to remember, to rehab our well. One of our wells needs some work. Those were our 2 top, and then 1st and 2nd Street if there's money. So actually 1st and 2nd Street was the first priority, and then the other 2 were the lift stations and the wells.
And then for the county, we had assistance with sheriff's vehicles, road department vehicles, and assistance with a conversion with the detention center on there. And then the Village of Milan, they were looking at some road work and additional equipment.
Theirs, I think, was Mirabel Park. They're working on some refurbishments that also affect drainage, so it's really a drainage project, but it creates a park as a part of it, so you get two benefits.
Yes, sir.
And now that George Hanisch is close to being done, do you know what the current projection is for the completion of the bridge?
Any day now. I saw them out there this morning. We added a few days on. Mr. Owen, who's here with us today, brought to our attention some needs for sidewalk. And so we got to looking at the design, and the design had sidewalk on one side of the bridge but not the other. There was a little bit of controversy on whether it needed it on both. But we went ahead and added sidewalk to the other side.
Oh, okay.
And it's going to be a little bit different because they had to add it on mid-project. But, you know, what happened, George Hanisch was really just the bridge project, and then we were doing some sidewalk repairs, and a citizen brought to my attention that we were doing some sidewalk repairs at the corner of George Hanisch. Well, those that lived in that neighborhood know that it's always been hard to turn into that. If you're on Santa Fe and you're turning onto George Hanisch, it's not wide enough. And if there's a car parking there, when I had high school drivers, if there was a car parked there at the corner, I was like, oh, just keep going, don't turn, because I was like, they're going to hit that car. So they said, you know, if we're going to work on that sidewalk, let's widen it. So I brought that to their attention, and we decided to go ahead and put some sidewalk as a part of that widening, and they paved the road, that section. So we're still going to have to deal with the other side. There's going to be an area that's not going to be paved initially, I believe, a small area where they had to tear out the bridge. So we'll have to work on that, but it should be any day. It got extended a little bit. I think they added 6 days onto the project, so I think by next week it should be done, unless there's some striping or something I'm not aware of. But
Yeah, we have found the easiest way, we live up in Los Alamitos Heights, the easiest way of getting into town is definitely Nimitz.
to take
Lobo
the,
Canyon and Nimitz.
Yeah.
Forget Roosevelt, forget Sacaleras.
right, and a lot take George Hanisch, or a lot go the back way on the old 66 and down Sacaleras that are that live in the where you live. Yes.
One of the things that I have been concerned about for quite a while is that when we have a city council meeting or we have a county commissioners meeting, we don't get financials. We don't know what's really happening with our city or county for that month. We don't know where the money goes. We don't know what money is coming in. And someone told me, we can go online and find it. But I believe that if we have a report every time there's a meeting, then the citizens know where the money is being spent, what money is coming in, and there's documentation.
We have a finance meeting before our commissioners meeting. It's the hour prior to that. There's a written report. It's in the clerk's office that you can just say, hey, I'd like to take a look at that. And I've looked at years and stuff like that on there. So we have that at the county. I'm not sure if you guys posted it yours, but we have a whole separate meeting for that, and it's on there. I have now, because things are a little tight, I've asked the treasurer's office. I get a daily balance. I want to know exactly what's in there. Unfortunately, like Manny had said, you know, everybody has a checkbook and you work at it from home, and you know, you only spend what's in your account, not you keep writing because you have checks. Unfortunately, the county has not been up on its bank reconciliations. So after I had my little meltdown with that, I said, how can you really know where you are if you haven't reconciled for 5 months? So we are pushing through with that. I'm hoping to be caught up through November, because December, we haven't received them yet. And we're trying to get that much more accurate, because I want to know once a month how much I have outstanding versus what I have in the account. I do not believe that process was put in place any time prior for a county manager. So,
Just on a positive note, I heard this morning that New Mexico has the highest oil producing state in the country right now. Third. I heard first. So anyway, hopefully that's going to improve our state coffers.
Yeah. So Barbara, I'll make a note of that. Our typical financial report would be very hard for most citizens to understand. So, but I think we could create something, even if not monthly, but quarterly, that we could kind of give a breakout that these are, you know, income we took in, maybe it was a grant, this is how much gross receipts we brought in, and then these were our expenditures, our big expenditures, you know, we spent 60,000 on George Hanisch, or, you know, those kind of things, because our typical finance report, Manny can verify, they're pretty complicated to understand, and your basic citizen looking at it are going to have trouble understanding it. But we could create something very simple to just give the council and the citizens a little better idea of what's coming and going. Yes?
You brought up that, you know, in the planning for the new bridge, that sidewalk was only considered on one side of the road in the initial planning, and that you guys had to add that second bit of sidewalk sort of last minute, which I would hope doesn't, you know, compromise the quality of the project, because the original plan was for a wider road, and now you're adding a sidewalk last minute.
Well, and the sidewalk's not being added in the road portion. The original project was just the bridge. It had nothing to do with the road beyond the bridge or the sidewalk beyond the bridge.
Yeah. Well, you know, just the reason I want to address it is because we do have, my go-to example would be the bridge that goes over the train tracks towards Walmart. We do have areas that are almost impassable for pedestrians, you know, and that's something that in any more planning that the city does, you know, to repair our roads. And
Especially.
That's a state road, so the city had
Well, I
nothing to
understand
do with that one.
Yeah, I understand that, and I've talked to other people about it, you know, I get that there's nothing the city can do about that in particular, but, you know, in any planning, you know, our sidewalks are degrading. There are still roads that are not really pedestrian friendly. If you go beyond the bridge at George Hanisch into that community back there, there isn't any sidewalk, you know, so.
Right, and that's been an issue throughout town, was we were trying to add more sidewalks.
So let me get back on that bridge. We had a decision to make. We already have the company there in place. So do we spend $100,000 later, or do we spend an extra $30,000 to get the other sidewalk done? All the company's already there. We've already saved $70,000. That's the way we see it. As far as the roads are concerned, people have been calling for the last 3 years on this. Why don't you ask the prior administration why they never addressed all those roads back then? And why are we getting so much heat now that the city's been doing so good in the last 4 years? Why don't we look at how we can benefit from the citizens on a positive note, and let's not reflect on what happened 20 years ago. Let's just move forward.
So along that line too, I'd like to say, I try to be really careful about criticizing prior administration. You know, until you walk a mile in my shoes, I really believe that. And it's real easy for me to say, oh, look what they didn't do, or they didn't do this right. You know, there before the grace of God go I, because I make my mistakes too, and all I expect from people is you try your best. And I believe many of our past successors, the past city manager, the past council, we may not agree with what they did, but I believe most likely they were doing their best and thought that they were doing the right thing. And did they make poor decisions? Yes, we all do at times. So I just, you know, I look at, and maybe they didn't have the money to do stuff.
That's what happened on Mountain Road. They put in all the infrastructure, that's why all the bumps are there. That was like 10 or 12 years ago.
Right.
They're supposed to build sidewalks because you have the preschool there and you have the high schoolers coming. They didn't do that because they ran out of money. They were supposed to pave the road, which is not paved. But they're supposed to pave it because all the structure, but they ran out of money. And so that's why it was never, that's why it's got lumps. It was never completed, because they ran out of money. Because I remember that, because it costs so much to put all that new infrastructure in.
Yeah, it's not. So I try to be, you know, try not to be too judgmental of what others did before me, because I'm sure I get my own critics, and everybody has a different idea of how something should be done, and let's all try our best.
That being said, I would like to second Chris's advocacy and really mention sidewalks are important. I think that's essential to this town, especially if we do want to make it more, you know, friendly. We want people to be out and about. People can't be out and about if they can't walk safely. And that doesn't just go through, you know, downtown. That throughout the entire community. We have a lot of poor people here. Not everyone has a car. And it would be a lot easier for someone to, you know, get out and try to reintegrate in society, get a job, you know. and whatnot if they can get somewhere safely.
Yes.
And that's just a problem. So all I say is from now on, whenever we are working on road projects, can we include sidewalks in that? You know, if it's not, you know, Manny made a good point that, you know, if it's cheaper to, you know, tack that on to that project, then maybe we can work on doing that, just, you know, and I say that as someone is a runner and a walker and, you know, goes throughout this entire community, and there are some parts of town that I just can't go through if I want to feel safe.
Right, right. We agree. And that is a priority for the city council and the manager.
I wasn't trying to criticize the current administration. I appreciate
No,
you guys
no.
are doing, and I'm grateful.
No, I
Yeah, definitely
realize.
consider pedestrians and,
Yeah.
No,
All we're saying is sidewalks.
yes, and we've heard that for years, so that has been a priority of this council. We've budgeted money each year, the last 3 years, to put in more, yes, and we'll continue. Yes, it is important. So real quick, I just kind of wanted to see if you had any resolutions that you'd like to throw out there that the city should be thinking about. Mine on my list is customer service and trying to figure out how we can be better at serving the citizens. Yes, Mr. Hoskins?
I'd like to see because you got all the traffic coming up from above where I live. I live on the corner of Truman. To extend the road over to George Hanish along the pipeline there. I mean, I know this is going to take years to.
Mason?
Yeah, Mason.
Mason, yeah.
Extend Mesa over to George
Because
Hanish?
you got all these cars coming down and going through a residential area.
You know, that's an idea, because somebody who lives on your road, she wants us to close Truman. And I said, oh, I don't know that that's going to happen, but,
And then
so if
two-
we extended Mesa, then that would give a different route.
Right.
Okay,
And there aren't 2 speed bumps on Truman now.
right. She said they're not working. They're not working. We put them in, but it's not slowing people down,
No,
so.
they're, I've been through there and they're not typical grand speed bumps, which means if you don't slow down to 5 miles an hour, your car can be wrecked. They're flat on the top. And I can see where people would get used to, I think we can take this at 30 miles an hour.
Well, they just started redoing them, and they got the DOT's regulation for a speed hump, and they're making them all uniform. So I can't tell you how many complaints I've got now, and I don't like the speed humps either. I really dislike them, but you wouldn't believe how many people call and want speed humps. We do have a process now where they have to have a petition, and they have to get so many signatures and things so that we're not just putting them out willy-nilly, but now that we're making them uniform, they're sure come to light, because I've gotten about 6 calls this last week concerned. Yeah.
Well, another thing with like Truman that I was thinking, because I've had this in another city where I live, where they put up cameras at certain intersections. I got nailed twice because I didn't come to a complete stop. Well, on Truman, they could have put up cameras, well, maybe hide them a little bit, and get the speeders. Because I would think that they're, and I'm not sure about this, but I would think that the ones who are speeding might be a minority of the ones using the road. I don't know. I don't know the culture well enough. But if the people who are speeding get nailed, they're going to slow down, because if they get a second time, of course they may wonder how they got nailed without a police car being there, but that's another story.
Right.
Or what
Yeah.
about one of those speed things that clocks your speed limit, like, you know?
It tells you.
Yeah, because I know that if I'm speeding, I see one of those, I go, oh, crap. I mean, and I'm a chronic
Yeah.
speeder, so.
Right, right.
Just a different note on a different subject. Vehicles, residents that make their permanent parking on the street. Because it makes a one lane, you know, and it's like, really? I mean, that's city property right there. If there's anything that can be done to let the residents know that is not their property to park their vehicle. I can see if it's like a funeral or, you know, a party or something, but some of them make it permanent. Yeah.
I know if it's broken down and it's not operable, they've got cited, but I don't know if any of our ordinances address it'd be really hard. I guess it'd take a lot of effort to try to prove that they're permanently parking there. But it's something, I agree, it's very annoying.
It is, I mean, you're trying to get through and there's another car coming back and it's like,
Yeah,
go over and wait.
Mount Taylor, going down past the mid-school, a lot of people that live there park on the side of the road. That's one of the streets. Then they also park on the sidewalk, and that is something we can cite them for. And that's annoying, because if you're walking down the sidewalk, we already don't have very many, and then here you're parked on the one I can walk on. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
What about people who park in their yard? Is there any kind of ordinance?
There is.
It depends on the situation. Yeah.
Another thing I've noticed is after, I think it's a state law that after the sun goes down, you're supposed to put on your headlights. And I'm not sure. But if I'm driving around almost at dark sometimes, I see people without their headlights on. And I'm wondering if this is really a police issue, not a city issue. I don't know.
Yeah, and it is our city police, but I know if you don't have them on at certain points, you will get pulled over.
If you can-
Yeah,
I was gonna ask you, you know, I know you can't get the cattails out of the trenches with it, right? But what I was wondering is, you know, between the title company and the back of the church, those elm trees that keep cutting down, could they come in with a backhoe and take those roots out? So they don't go in the trench anymore and try to get rid of cattails?
yeah, if the ones that are in the canal on the edges, those are real touchy because they're under the Corps of Engineers.
Okay, because one
Authority.
time a friend of mine, we came in the back of the church there and we cut he had a small backhoe. We took the ones out next to the, you know, as far as we could
By
go,
the
but he couldn't go
church.
down further because the backhoe was too small. But if the city could pull those, because they're not in the hole, they're on the shore, but they're starting to put roots out that way. But if the city could, you know, dig out those
Dig 'em
stumps,
out?
not haul them away for them. If they put them in the church parking lot, I'll haul them away. But if they dig out those stumps, because they have to cut them every year, and so if they dig out the stumps behind the Baptist church and the title company, and then I'd haul them away from them. They dig 'em out.
Okay, let me
Just need a
see,
backhoe.
let me see what that regulation, because I
Okay,
know
It's not in the river, it's right at the shore.
it's on the shore.
Right, yeah. But they're
Okay.
trying to put chutes out that way.
Okay,
I have two positive things I want to say. I like the sign that you posted over there by the car wash by Walmart. The one that tells you about the city activities, group activities. I really like that. I think that's good. And I think you ought to put a city trash can over there at that corner too. I noticed you had people cleaning up yesterday.
yeah. You know, the other place we've tried to put a trash can and, the DOT wouldn't let us, is over, as you enter and exit off of the interstate, exit 85, as you're getting on to go to Albuquerque, people dump so much trash. So we wanted to put a big bin there, thinking, well, maybe people will put their trash in there. That's the DOT wouldn't let us, but we need to keep working on that. But yeah, let me see what we can do, because maybe we could encourage the transients to pick up the trash, or at least put their trash in the dumpster.
What are you
Yeah.
gonna do about that? We have a grant sign, you know, it's fell apart. Did you see that as you entered town?
Those are private business signs. I saw that. I'll have to find out. Tammy may know who owns that. It's a billboard, right?
Right, in the middle part.
The middle part's off of it. Do you know who owns that one?
The one that says entering grants.
I'm
and-
assuming that's the Patel land, and we used to have some partnership with the previous owner, but we don't now, so it's no longer our board, but yeah, it's kind of in shambles.
It's half our board and half grant.
Yeah.
Right. It says grants, but yeah, I'm not sure. There's another one out there that has a strange, it says release or something.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't figure out what that was.
Maybe you want release, maybe you want to release it.
So I didn't know, does that mean it's for use or what? I'm not sure.
Yeah,
What
I
is
saw that. I thought that was
that?
like
It almost looked like gang paraphernalia. I'm not quite sure what it
I
is.
was like,
Is
did
it?
our town become a video game, post-apocalyptic? That's what it looks like.
Yeah, so a couple of things we might want to check into, I guess, and find out who owns those, because they give a bad impression, for sure. Any resolutions besides sidewalks? Billboards, yeah. Uh-huh.
The DOT, I'm hearing DOT.
Mm-hmm.
You wanted, the city wanted to put something out, and the DOT, I guess, said no.
Mm-hmm.
And Roosevelt's in the condition it is. It was my impression that no matter how long the situation was going on with repaving 66 and the lawn, it wasn't that bad to begin with. And Roosevelt is really in bad condition. I think we need to march on to DOT and the lawn.
Yeah, find out who the decision makers are. Yes.
Remember a long time ago, there was an idea of taking all the old signs and refurbishing them and then maybe taking them to a site like a sign sanctuary. And
Yes.
you could have it set up so that tourists can come and get their pictures taken with that.
We're still working on that.
That was a fantastic, I think, idea. And you could call it a sanctuary, sign sanctuary, but you know, even maybe members of the chamber, you know, business owners and stuff, maybe you could get them, if they're interested, to finance the reverberation of it, and then they can put a plaque up there that this was refurbished by, you know, as an advertisement by so-and-so business, you know, whatever.
Right, yeah.
Because I think that was still, since that one sign is so, you know, and I've seen a lot of people over there too, I thought another place with all those antique signs refurbished would be a really neat, you know, if you could make it so they can see the sign when they're taking the picture.
Right.
And just make a field or something, you know?
That people could park and
Yeah,
then walk through.
walk through it and stuff.
Yeah,
But
we're
they are
still,
some really neat signs
that's still
in
on the
town. They're all
boilerplate.
dilapidated, man, would that be?
Yeah.
I think that was a fantastic idea.
Do you know of anybody that has 100,000 to start refurbishing?
Is that how much each sign
No,
would cost?
it'll cost a bit.
But it hit the lotto.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll cost a bit to refurbish each one,
So
yeah.
the city's doing a nice job, though. I like all these new signs that tells people where they can go. You know, we didn't
Yeah.
have before. It says, you know, Mount Taylor's this way, the hospital's this way, or something else is that way. You've done a real good job with all the signage.
Thank you.
I think the money should go to the top priority project you have.
The roads, yes,
One of
yes.
the things that I wanted to mention, our last meeting, we had the lady who runs the animal shelter.
Sherry.
Sherry, the lady from the animal shelter. So, Les Gaines called me a couple days ago, and I'm taking my dog to the vet in Albuquerque, and he's talking to my husband, and my husband said, Black Great Dane. And I look at him, he said, you did not hear that. And so I would encourage the holiday season and stuff, if you have any extra love to give, have a little spot, go adopt one. I adopted the Black Great Dane as soon as we came back from Albuquerque. And so just a wonderful, wonderful dog. Better behaved than my stepson and the two other dogs that I had. The only problem is he's kind of taken over the guest bedroom, and so if anybody wants to see the new Black Great Dane on my queen size bed, there's about this much bed and all dog. But you know, go try to support, even if you can't adopt, go in there, even spend a little time or make a donation for food and stuff. They're really struggling over there, and you know, it's hard to have to put these animals down at no fault of their own. I am trying to work with the county manager in Taos. They hardly have any animals in their facility, so they get them from Utah and Colorado. I'm like, we'll take a doggy transport and bring you some, and see if we can partner with them. So if you know anybody who's looking for a little bit of love, I would highly, highly recommend the animal shelter.
Do you know if they offer assistance with getting immunizations and like
I don't know. Sterilization, yes.
Afford it?
Yes, they do that. And so that's help. I don't know about immunizations, but I'm sure Sherry could get that information on there. And, you know, one of the things that we might want to look at, and I just thought of this now, second, is veterinarian students. Could they come out and put a clinic on and do rabies shots, or not necessarily do the sterilization, but, you know, immunizations on there, and see, you know, they can come out and do, you know, 500 animals, and, you know, you just pay a
Do they ever
small
have like
fee.
a fair or something? I know I've been here a few years already, and I've never heard anything where people could come in and with these and
They had one in the summer at the farmer's market, and then they had one in December at Diamond G, where they brought some out, and, you know, as people are coming through.
Yeah.
I just wanna, I've been thinking about this too as a way to help the animal shelter, is that maybe it would be possible that we could open an adoption center somewhere along the Main Street district where, you know, they get kind of overloaded sometimes. They have a lot of animals there. If you go in, you know, and it might relieve some pressure off them if we could open some sort of like, in one of our vacant buildings on Main Street, if we could open an adoption center, you know, people would be walking by and they might just stop in to look around without the intention of adopting an animal, and then, you know.
And the friendliest animals could.
Yeah, there's some good animals there. There's some
Yeah.
really great pets
Oh,
in
yeah.
that place.
Any other great ideas? No? Well, have a great rest of your day, and thank you for sharing your morning with us.
Thank you so much.